Hello. So today I'm going to be talking about prayer. So before I go into what I wrote down about it, I'm just going to go off of the night I had my vision. So what happened that night? I discovered the Trinity, and I discovered how to pray. How you pray is rhetoric. You have to be convincing, but you have to be begging. It's a dialectical thing. Not only does it mean paradox, it means growth. Does dialectic mean paradox? It also means growth. So, when you pray, you have to be convincing, but you also have to realize that you're being aware of a low position when you're praying. Okay, so there's that. That's all I remember. So, praying to God. What are you praying to other than God? Because is God the best word for God? Probably. The best cultural word. But there's another word that I like to use, the singularity. We'll leave it at that. No, we won't. So the singularity is a unity. It's something you approach with like calculus. When all of a sudden you put in something into a function and nothing comes out. Zero comes out. But it's still a point on a graph. It's a point on a graph. That's how we represent it as 3D. It has coordinates. But there's nothing there. So, the singularity is when you grow so high, so far along in a graph, it's something that you approach, because the function no longer functions once you hit the singularity. Okay. So what do I pray to? What do I pray for when I pray to God? I always pray to be willing to accept life. Be willing to accept. I always pray to that. Pray with that in mind. When I pray to God, I pray to be willing to accept. Not I will accept. Not I will reject. Not I'm willing to reject. It's I'm willing to accept. Not will. God wills or something like that. I am willing. I mean, at some level of maturity, you say I will accept or I will reject, but not when you're at the level of maturity or when you're in the situation. When at some level of maturity, you're in a situation where you need to be willing, where you need to will something. But you don't really will anything, ever. But you do. It seems like you do. But the highest level of maturity, you gotta be willing to accept. So I pray to be willing to accept life. What else do I pray to? Pray with. The courage to do the right thing. Oh, also willing to accept acceptance. Courage to do the right thing. To do right life. Yeah. There's a lot of Buddhism in that. But courage is a cardinal virtue according to my religion. Courage. The word courage says C-R-A-G in it. Courage is also what you do when you're afraid. I wonder if fear should be a cardinal virtue. But it's probably like a cardinal vice, whatever that means. Dualism right there. Another thing I pray for is the virtue to know the vices. So virtue is the interesting in between is the cardinal virtue. To be virtuous, you have to be courageous and be the interesting in between. But being virtuous is knowing the vices. Not only knowing the vices, but being the vices at an interesting in between. So courage, justice, the interesting in between of the vices is virtue. Being the cardinal virtue with the vices makes you virtuous. So I pray for virtue. Now, these are the two interesting parts. It's about the Sorcerer's Stone and the Logos. Those must be part of your prayers. So, to get the Sorcerer's Stone, you have to go beyond the Sorcerer's Stone. You have to want to see God. You want to see the Behemoth. You have to... What does Dumbledore say? The one who was willing to hold it, but not use it. Who wanted the stone to hold it, but not to use it, was the one who gets the Sorcerer's Stone. So what do I pray for? What did I pray? When I'm saying what am I praying for now, whenever I talk about prayer, I'm always talking about the night I had my vision. Always. Because that is the time in reality of the universe where prayer truly worked. So, I wrote on this piece of paper, to know and share and beg forgiveness for binding the Sorcerer's Stone and the Logos. For binding Jesus Christ as the Sorcerer's Stone, as the Logos. So, why do I say to know and share? I say that because that's what I wanted to do that night. On January 3rd. What I wanted to do... I need more light in here. What I wanted to do was teach everyone how to design and develop. Biology. I wanted to teach them how to do that. Because I didn't know how to do it myself. So, if I did it then, and it worked, then I should be doing it all the time. Well, I wanted to know and to share how to develop biology. And to that, I wanted to know the Logos. So I spent all night studying the Logos, but that wasn't working. So to relax, I read the book of Job, and I had my vision. So, the book of Job is all about knowing God. It's the Old Testament. There's no Jesus Christ, Sorcerer's Stone stuff in there. It's old. So I had to move beyond the Logos. I had to get to God to get the Sorcerer's Stone. I didn't care about the Sorcerer's Stone. I spent all day looking for the stone. You're supposed to look for the stone, definitely. Where is Jesus Christ? It's in my notes all the time. Even after I got the stone, it's like, where is Jesus? Where's the man? Where's Christ? It's always about that. But at that night, after I spent all day praying and I read the book of Job, I wasn't looking for the stone anymore. I was just looking to relax in the power of God. God isn't omni. He's the singularity. So I was looking for the singularity. I was going beyond the stone. But in my prayers, I still acknowledged the stone. Because I believe that's just what we're supposed to do. We're always approaching, we're always looking to be as close to God as we can. And when you're as close to God as you can be, you have the stone. When you're an infinitesimal distance away from a singularity, you have the stone. And you don't have it for much longer after that. You don't have it for many zooms out, for many time steps, for many units on a graph. Really, it's only 2. So always in your prayers, beg for the stone, beg to share the stone, and be convincing about the stone, about your love for the stone, and be convincing in your knowledge of the stone, in your prayers to God, the singularity, the compassionate, the merciful, whatever that means. So, the last thing I have written down is beg forgiveness for binding the stone. In my vision, Jesus Christ was being ground by gears. And that was something I couldn't really look at for very long. Like, I looked away. I probably could have looked forever if I felt like it. But that forever would have still been one time step. But I couldn't look at it. I didn't want to look at it. I looked away and saw God the Father as blinding. And when I say God the Father, I don't mean God the singularity. I mean Ethos. I looked at Ethos, the blinding character. And by blinding, I mean quantum. So, beg forgiveness for binding the stone, for binding the Logos, for binding Jesus Christ. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. I did not know I was going to bind the Sorcerer's Stone to me. I did not mean to do it, but it's what I was doing. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. If anyone else is going to get the stone, they're not going to know they're looking for the stone. At the moment, at that moment, they're going to be looking for something else. They're going to be looking for God. They're going to be looking for the singularity. I wasn't looking for Jesus when I read the book of Job. I was just looking to see. Or I was looking to relax. To keep having fun. Stuff like that. So there we go. That's what I do when I pray. Let me go over it again. To know, share, and beg forgiveness for binding the stone. Be willing to accept. Courage to do the right life. And virtue to know the vices. The singularity. It's beyond the goal.